Hey y'all, welcome to my channel. I'm Amber and today I'm going to be doing a Sunday read slash TBR for the rest of July. So I want to get back into making videos by doing this. It's going to turn more like a weekly wrap-up style. Hopefully next week as I finished hopefully some books. And yeah, I think I just want to do like weekly wrap-ups instead of like a monthly wrap-up of everything I've read. I might add in some movies that I've watched. At the end of the video, I will be doing that here. So you can look forward to that if you are interested in movies also. But let's just get started with the books that I am currently reading. I'm going to talk about the two rereads that I have real quickly. The first one I have to talk about is Anne's House of Dreams by Emma Montgomery. This is the fifth book in the Anne of Green Gables series, and this one is like her first 3 years of marriage with Gilbert, and I absolutely love this book. This and Wendy Potler's I think is one of my favorites more recently, just because I feel like as I'm an adult, she has grown up and become an adult, and I love seeing her growing up and starting to mature in the way that she thinks and just her life. So, and I've always thought this one had a lot of more power and depth to it. I do say that the last 3 books of the series are my least favorite because they start becoming more about her kids over her, and I've always just wanted to be in her story and not her children's story. I mean, I get it. I get why she did it, but I just didn't like it. And it took a long while for me to like warm up to Rilla of Ingleside, which is about her youngest child. And it's not been until recently that I've grown to actually like her story a little bit. But yeah, I have not read those books since the first time I read them thoroughly. Like, I will start reading those last 3 books and then I will end up just not continuing on. So maybe I will finish the whole series this time around. We shall see. I've been going very slowly because a lot of the books that I'm trying to get through are library books. My library has finally opened for curbside pickup, and that included interlibrary. So I just went crazy and requested all the books that I really been wanting to read, not thinking that because not all the libraries in our system were open that I might jump the line. So all the books I was wanting came faster than I was expecting. So I got really overwhelmed and trying to keep up with them. So I returned a lot of the books. So the books that I am talking about today are the ones I really want to focus on or came like recently. So that's like one of the reasons why I'm going really slow with this. I've been reading this for like over 2 weeks, which is not typical for me when it comes to these books. I can read these in like 2 days because they're so short and they're rereads. So of course they're easy for me to get through. But yeah, so that's my first reread, and then the next one I'm not really going to talk about because as most people who are on social media who are readers will know, this author has did some very transphobic things, and I've been wondering recently about this because I'm very much agree with this. I don't think that we should be supporting this author anymore, but I find it interesting that this was the line that we consider her crossing, because I felt like she has crossed that line before. I feel like she has said things and done things that were very problematic in the past too, and so like I've stopped supporting her with my money and stuff a bit ago, but I'm curious as to like, it's an interesting thought process that we have to go through. What is too far when it comes to problematic people and things that they say? Because I feel like if they already said something that's problematic, it's already an indicator of how problematic of a person they are. If they're going to say something that's slightly problematic, I don't think that we can really ignore that, because that means that they are already on that lines to being racist, sexist, whatever they may be prejudiced against. And if they're prejudiced against a certain group of people, you kind of wonder if they're going to be against another set of people. I just feel like something that I've been noticing is that when someone says they're this, even if they don't say it outrightly, it's gonna lead into other areas too. So I'm just curious what you all think about that, because for me, I've seen people criticize her in the past, but have not felt like she crossed that line. But yeah, I've never followed her on Twitter. I stopped following her on Twitter a while ago, especially because I felt like she was ruining the books with her constant changing of something that I don't feel like you really can when the books are already written and in canon, and it's just like you're trying to change things that you clearly know that are an issue in the books, but it's like either write it in the first place or just let it go. It's gone. It's in the ether. You can't do anything to change it. So once she started doing that, I was done. And then hearing how other people have been saying the more problematic, the real problematic things, I just stopped following her because of that. I just couldn't deal with her. So something that I also want to talk about when it comes to these books is the fact that a lot of people have been saying that they're not going to read her books anymore. They're not going to have them on their shelves. And I get that. Like, I understand, because you want to stand in solidarity with people who have been hurt by what she has said and done. But here's where I stand on this, and I really liked how Daniel Radcliffe said this. He said it very much more elegantly than I'm going to say it. So just look up what Daniel Radcliffe said when it comes to this issue. But basically he said, don't let her words, her hateful words, ruin something that has been so dear to you. And that is where I'm landing on this, because these books have been through my life, like, got me through a lot of things. And I feel like I already have these books on my shelf. Why should I not enjoy them? I'm not going to let her ruin that for me. And like I said, I will not be promoting her works on my channel. I will not be spending money on her. And it's like, you can buy things used and the money goes to someone else. So it's like, but I don't plan on buying anything from her ever again, really. That's by her. So it's just, I think that there is a way of supporting without having her ruin something that has been dear to us. But yeah, that's just where I land with this. You can agree or disagree, but please be respectful about it, because I support being inclusive and kind to people no matter where you land when you're with your opinions. Like, you don't need to say hate speeches. You don't have to be hateful about it, or just keep it to yourself, really. But anyways, let's get on to current reads that are new to me reads. I have been very much reading nonfiction for quite some time. There's a lot of nonfiction I have given back to the library that I will get back to, but these are the two that I really wanted to finish. The first one is Born a Crime by Trevor Noah, and this is his essay collection talking about his childhood in South Africa at the end of apartheid and the after parts of apartheid. You know, we think good things happen when you're in something bad, but there's always a lot of issues that are shown. Things that maybe you didn't notice during it, but becomes more exacerbated by trying to change things. So anyways, seeing his childhood, what his childhood is really great. I am not a fan of essays, and I did not realize when I picked this up it was going to be essays, which would not have been, I would have picked it up nevertheless, but I went into it blind, not realizing, or really not remembering, because I do think that somebody that I follow has mentioned that this was essays. But yeah, I'm not really a fan of essays, short stories, those kind of works. So I think it's really great that I watched his comedy shows and I've watched his daily shows and I follow him on Instagram and know his voice very well. So I think that really helped me in getting through a lot of what I've already read so far. I am, let me see. Yeah, so I'm about halfway through, 140 pages in, and really enjoying hearing his voice and just getting to know more of him in his perspective through this lens. And I appreciate the fact that he's not telling this story through the eyes of a child, because I've never liked when people do that. And so hearing his adult voice talking about his childhood, he does it with humor and just honesty about like how much of an idiot he was at times. Like he was a crazy kid. Like, oh my gosh, he was a very much crazy kid. But really, learning a lot through these. So very much looking forward to continue on. Again, I slowed down on this one because of the next one that I'm reading, which is Frederick Douglass, Prophet of Freedom by David W. Blight. This is a massive book and I really need to get going. I renewed Born of Crime, so I have a little bit extra time with this one. So as soon as I finish this one, I will get back to this. But this is going to take me a bit of effort to get through. I have until like the 30th to finish this, and it's like, whew, a lot of words, a lot of things to get through, but I am really enjoying the reading experience. I will say that this author comes off with his writing a little bit like he's on the towing the line of being worshipful of him, which, like, it's fine to have a huge respect, and I have huge respect for Frederick Douglass, but when you're writing a biography, I think that you need to be writing in an unbiased fashion. At least you need to try to, and it just doesn't feel like he's writing in an unbiased way, and I think a lot of that has to do with the writing style. I like personable writing, but there's a difference between personable writing and writing in a way that sounds like you're pandering. No, that sounds wrong, but like, it's hard to explain really. So I like the writing, and if it was fiction, it would be great, but in nonfiction, when I'm trying to like just know more about Frederick Douglass, I feel like there's an issue a little bit there. But I've also heard somebody else who's talked about this, saying that he's writing in the style of Frederick Douglass when he went with, as you may know, Frederick Douglass wrote 3 autobiographies, memoirs of his own. So I'm guessing that like he is trying to give you the voice of Frederick Douglass through his own, which I think that's a mistake. You should just write in your own style, be yourself, and talk about Frederick Douglass. I do appreciate that he's using his memoirs as a basis of his writing and in talking about his life. He's using that to like talk about like how much is what he's saying through his memoirs actual fact and stuff. Like he kind of like goes through that process a little throughout, and I like that because when you're talking about your personal life, it's hard, especially when you're dealing with a lot of anger and stuff. I don't think that Frederick Douglass wrote in anger. I haven't read his memoirs, but from what he has written through him, I'm not sure if it's all in anger, but I can understand the anger. But anyways, I wanted to read something here because he was at the beginning of the first chapter. He talks about the statue that was built of Abraham Lincoln and a slave. And you see the slave is kneeling, and Abraham Lincoln has his arm raised over him. And that, like, makes me want to, like, puke in my mouth, because, like, ew. Abraham Lincoln, I have more recently learned, was not really an abolitionist in any sort of way. Like, yes, he did the Emancipation Proclamation, and he did a lot of good work in that sense. But was it because it was convenient for him? Was it at that time just the way to do it? I don't know. But Frederick Douglass himself says this. So, then came the most striking and lasting words of the speech. The race to which we belong were not the special objects of his, Lincoln's, consideration. Douglass declared to the ages, "My white fellow citizens, you are the children of Abraham Lincoln. We are at best only his stepchildren. Children by adoption, children by forces of circumstances and necessity." So, that is a very powerful statement right there. And it's really interesting that as he was doing this speech, he started off being very kind and respectful, and I mean, he says this in respect too, but I'm saying like it's almost like he is not buttering it up, but warming them up to what he has to say, and then he comes with the hard, cold truth at the end. And then he talks about how Lincoln, from the first years of his presidency, said that he would send back slaves to slavers in the South, and that he would uphold slavery, and that they should go back to where they belong, even though the people that they were taught to the black Americans that he was talking to actually were born in America. So clearly Abraham Lincoln had some issues, and it wasn't until the Civil War, maybe, what I'm gathering just off of this, that he started thinking that freeing the slaves was the way to go. So I'm not sure how much of Abraham Lincoln's choice to do the Emancipation Proclamation and all of that was based on politics over morality. So I don't know if we're going to be 100% sure on that no matter what, because history distorts things. Time distorts things. So yeah, so far I've been reading like 2 chapters a day, but since I got a little bit behind, I'm probably gonna have to read like 4 chapters a day to get through this book in a timely fashion. So I am like 100 pages in? No, 86 pages in. That's a little bit farther back than I should be, but yeah, working my way through this. This is what my next week will be looking like a lot in terms of reading. I want to get back into reading this week too, so we shall see if that happens. Now onto the TBR. I have 3 books out from the library that I have not gone into, and hopefully will not have to return, because these are due in August. I should look that up again, but I think it's mid-August sometime. So I should have some time to get to these. The first one is The Poet X by Elizabeth Acevedo. I am thinking of just reading this in one sitting sometime this week because it's written in verse, so it should be able to be done real quickly. And in this one, I've heard so much positive reviews. And it is YA, so that is kind of YA is a hit or miss for me. I do not particularly lean towards reading YA just because for me I feel like authors simplify the writing style. Like teenagers can read complex sentences, and I feel like authors that are writing YA seem to forget that, or I think that they're like 5 years old or something, because like they're not people, they're not. But anyways, I will be trying to get to this sometime this week and finish it in one go. We shall see at the end of the next Sunday. But this is about a teenager who lives in Harlem, and she wants to write. She writes slam poetry, and she wants to join this club. But her mom, who's very religious, doesn't think that this club is appropriate. So she has to try to find a way to do what makes her free and happy and all that. So we shall see what's highlighted. The last 2 books are mystery thriller type books, I think. The first one is The Silent Patient by Alex M. I do not know how to pronounce the last name. And this is about a woman who seems to have this perfect life, but she one day just walks up to her husband and shoots him 5 times in the face, and then doesn't talk ever again. And this criminal psychologist is so intrigued by her that he tries to work with her and tries to get her to talk, I guess. And in trying to find truth, he goes down the rabbit hole and becomes obsessed with her in this story, to the point that it could be problematic for him. I've heard some very mixed things about this one, leaning towards more negative than positive, but I really wanted to see what I thought, because this synopsis sounds so intriguing, and I just think it's gonna be good. But again, I'm going in with the knowledge that there is mixed reviews on this one. The last one is Where the Crawdad Sings by Delia Owens, and this one is about this young girl named Kaya, everyone else calls her the Marsh Girl because she lives in the marsh by herself. And one day, these two guys who have seen her come to her, and I think something happens. And I believe the synopsis doesn't make it clear, but I think one of them is going to die, and they accuse her of murdering him, and so her world gets turned upside down after that point. We shall see if that is true, if what I'm thinking is true as I read this. So yeah, I've been holding off on that one just because I am not sure about this one as much as the Silent Patient. Like, I think the Silent Patient is going to be more straightforward, and this one I am not sure about at all. But yeah, that is all that I am reading and will be reading. I would love to hear your thoughts on what I've talked about when it comes to that certain author, and where do you land on keeping the books, reading them, or not. And Frederick Douglass, if you read his memoirs, what did you think about, like, and if you read this, what did you think of how the author was handling all of that? Also, I would love to hear what you've been reading, and thank you all so much for watching, and until next time, I'll see you then.